Practicing mindfulness is like nurturing a garden. It requires patience, care, and consistency. Engaging in this practice allows us to cultivate some space for tranquility and awareness about our mind. So this is the foundational practice which can help us begin to transform our lives with clarity and peace. So dedicating a few minutes each day for self-reflection through mindfulness, you can significantly enhance your overall well-being, reduce stress, and increase the capacity for compassion and empathy and all the good stuff we can show up for the world. So this daily commitment is what we try to do here. We've started this a couple of years ago, where we started by practicing a lot of mindfulness meditation, and then we tried different aspects of understandings and learnings. And right now we are in a phase where we are sharing what we know about what we know. So that's the introduction for today. And today I want you to engage with me a little bit more. So each of these topics which I will be discussing will have a theme, and whatever comes to your mind, I invite you to ask questions, share thoughts, and then we can discuss each of these themes as we move along. So we'll go through one by one. But the idea is we are going to be human today. And what does being human mean? And we will be discussing a few aspects of being human mindfully. So, hey friends, welcome. Wherever you are in the world, find a seat. And this might be time for you to self-reflect. So get yourself a pen and paper, get ready to scribble, or maybe even just closing your eyes and taking in whatever you can and leaving the rest. So before we talk, I just want you to arrive into your stillness. And stillness doesn't mean you are completely static. It's about the stillness of the mind, noticing the mind and kindly inviting it for this practice of growth and self-reflection. So closing your eyes, if that's convenient, take one gentle deep breath. And in through the nose, out through the mouth. That's it. Just one breath can get you into a mindful state. We sometimes spend a little bit more time, but in fact, if you just simply notice that one breath, you have arrived. And I've been thinking about a lot recently how often we try to arrive somewhere else, not in the sense of a place we're traveling to, but a better mood, a calmer mind, a more together version of ourselves. So mindfulness begins exactly where we are. Not one thought later, not one thought before. You can do all the things right, meditate, read self-help, eat the kale. Well, I'm not too sure about the kale. Please watch the kale. Anyway, take the cold plunge, wake up in the morning and feel gratitude. All of the things, you're doing it right. And still, one day, you just wake up and still feel off. And life likes to play games with us. So life's like slightly misaligned there. So we've done all the right things and suddenly still we don't feel like we are making any progress. So that's what it is about today. Today is exactly that, being human mindfully. Not perfectly, just truthfully. So the first aspect I want to discuss is when you're doing everything right, but still feel off. So we live in an era of what I call personal optimization. The idea that we tweak just enough sleep, the diet, the mindset, and we'll crack the happiness code. And we search everywhere in books, in live sessions like these. We find people, and sometimes even everything looks fine on paper, but the heart feels flat. You meditate, but you feel numb. You journal, but the words don't land anymore. You go for the walk, but your head's still loud. And here's what I've realized. And I invite you to bring your realizations too. So please feel free to share them. Here's what I realized. You're not broken. You're just meeting a deeper layer of yourself. And again, the idea, the premise of beginning a mindfulness based practice is not to erase discomfort. We often come at it maybe with finding a little bit of relaxation, but it's not about erasing discomfort. It actually, when you are, think about it, when you are being mindful, actually, you become more attached, attuned to that feelings. So actually, when you are becoming more mindful and being human, things start to pop up. It reveals what is happening. So you start noticing the subtle dissatisfactions, and you start to feel it more clearly because your mind is clear. So this subtle dissatisfaction that was always there but was buried under a lot of noise. So it's like maybe cleaning a house. It looks messier before it gets better. There's a sense saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Meaning, nothing really changes outside. But instead, you start seeing things differently. So so think about it. If you're doing quote unquote everything right and still feel off, maybe that's not failure. Maybe that's awareness deepening. And the ego says, why isn't it working? And the soul says, beautiful. We are finally seeing the truth. So let's pause here, and I invite you to feel free to share the comments and thoughts you may have about this idea of when you're doing things right, why do we still feel off? So there's this aspect of, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is true. That happens. Yes. Perspective, aligning a perspective. And that is also a wonderful way of approaching. So orienting your perspective. What else? What else could be some of the insights you may have got in your practices, in your life that help other people, that can help other people? So when you're doing everything right and still feels off, what is your advice? Or what is your insight? Because every one of you has an insight within you which is waiting to express itself. So please feel free to share your insights and thoughts. Could it be that we are still trying to control things 100%? I think that is a realization, that we want to be able to control everything. And the unfortunate part of control is magic, the illusion that you are controlling things. yet you have no control of a lot of things. Like sometimes we feel like we can control other people's behaviors, we can control the world outcomes, we can control our inner self, we can control how hungry we get, how sleepy we get, we can control how much we sleep, how much we rest, you can control how much we read, write, etc. And all of that is one aspect. But the point is, when we are chasing control, what we end up doing is become narrower, and we lose perspective. So yeah, controlling is something which we have to look into. Excellent. I try to do everything right, but then one fall back into depression and deep pain again, and then get better again. So this is also very important perspective, is that progress is not linear, and very important, because we end up in a different place when we think of linear progress, because we want to be getting better, we want to be going there, and then again we still all feel off because we our expectations didn't match what was the reality, and we end up going back into different states of being. But in that moment is a realization that progress is not linear. It, again, go back to the house, it gets better before it gets worse, before it gets better, in the sense that we start to have to work through things we may have forgotten, work through things which we have ignored. And if we are not ready for them, then that's a big challenge we have to overcome. And it's not about just being passive and like listening to the thoughts and just being here, but we are going to be taking action. And that's where it is. That's where it is. Great points, by the way. Thank you. Letting it go. This too will pass. Letting go of expectations keeps coming up. Good stuff. This too will pass. It has before. Absolutely fantastic. Expecting life to change, but it's more an attitude that maybe needs changing. And that's right. Letting it go. Absolutely. So not just uncomfortable, a feeling of being unsafe, that all the work does not being consistency in the feeling of being whole. So it all falls apart some days. That's right. Lack of trust, safety, and self-compassion, patience. Difficult to remember in the midst of pain. Very important point. And again, this is where practice helps, is even if you are not able to catch it in the first few seconds, you will be able to catch it in the first minute. And over time, when you catch it earlier and earlier. Progress is not linear, yeah. And it's because we have been set up with a false premise from the beginning that we had this one trajectory and it's always up, and whatever is up. When we think about what is up, what is success? One person's success is another person's failure. And that is what we are looking at up. So when we reframe, when we change our narrative, we become more conscious that the progress is not in the outcomes. And again, lot of spiritual and enlightened books have talked about the process, and how in the Bhagavad Gita it says the process is more important than the outcome. In Buddhism as well, in like a lot of traditions, all of the religions even talk about it, is think about the process, and that's absolutely true, and that's vital. So when we care about the process and we show up for the process, the progress might not look the way someone wants it to look, but you are still progressing in a way that is helpful. So Can't have ups without downs. Absolutely. An acceptance of being human. This is it. And use the toolkits we have. Absolutely. Keep the faith. Micromanaging can be exhausting, and it's better to go with the flow as it's less draining. Interesting. That's good. Excellent. So, life is a day by day experience. There isn't really a destination, it's daily learning. No way to do it right. All wonderful expressions. Thank you for sharing. Sometimes it's hard to see your own progress because you keep raising your standards. Interesting. Now, this is a fascinating area because this is also something we might get into trouble with, is setting standards that are draining. And I agree to a certain extent that we have to see where we are at. In order, if we have something to aim for, like a goal, I want to do this and I will do, then yes, these standards are really helpful to track our progress. And yes, this could be a way to improve. But if we are coming in with a mindset of indifference or mindset of, if I don't hit the target, I'm a failure, that's where we come into problems with. So, yes, coming back to the mindset. So, getting the mindset right and then having these goals to go for it. Yes, absolutely. And if you are in a state of being which is truly open and ready to learn and inspired by action, absolutely wonderful. Absolutely. Excellent. So that was just the first aspect of being human we wanted to cover. This is really wonderful. We had few of them. We had like 8 or 9, but I would really appreciate, keep these thoughts coming. So next up, so second aspect of being human is, why do I keep reacting like that? You ever tell yourself, next time in the situation, I'll stay calm? And then someone cuts you off in traffic and a loved one says something triggering, and here we go, you're gone. The human nervous system is a masterpiece. And in my case, it's a drama king. So we are wired for survival. We've talked about this plenty of time, not serenity or happiness. When the body senses threat, it just gets taken over. And that's why mindfulness isn't about being emotionless. It's about learning to see the storm before you become it. I'll repeat that again. It's about learning to see the storm before you become the storm. Here's a story. Years ago, someone gave me harsh feedback on one of my performance reviews, and instantly my chest tightened. And this was a job which I wanted to do, and I got in, and within the couple of weeks, I was told I was not good enough. My brain wrote a 10-page defense essay. Then I caught it. A tiny gap was formed. And this was early times when I started to practice mindfulness. So it took a while before it emerged. Then I caught it, the tiny gap. Instead of reacting to the situation, I paused. And in that pause, I realized that it wasn't the comment that hurt. It was my ego. It was this identification to something which is imprinted on me and which I felt was important. And that's what we call pride or ego. And the moment I saw that I felt was like a mindfulness in action. The moment I saw my own ego with feedback. Now, coming back to the feedback was useful because I was not really good at that. And I am actually thankful I didn't carry on with that job because I was not cut out for it. And it only dawned on me a couple of weeks later. Obviously, we don't think like that. We think like we can do everything all the time, all at once. But it was an opportunity for me to practice mindfulness. And that gave me the sign that, like, reacting, what is the purpose of reacting? Got me thinking, what is the purpose? We talk about the two arrows. We could talk about the first arrow, which hits, which is probably the feedback, it hurts. And then the second arrow, the story. The story is the one which replays over and over again. And you go back to the same area, and then we create this narrative, and then we keep going back in loops. And that's what hurts. That's what hurts. So, why do you keep reacting like that? Should have, could have. Inner fine tuning. Again, this is all part of our makeup as human, and these are all available. I didn't even realize I had that available at that time until I started to really practice what we talk about is being in the moment. We talk about it. That was a moment we just needed to be in. Yeah, awareness. Harder to change than follow old habits. Yes, this is it. This is probably the most important aspect of this idea that we are like this. And that is absolutely right. And it's a story we keep telling ourselves, and we can change it easily. In fact, we can change it in an instant if we are ready for it, though. A lot of us say, like, okay, yeah, next time I will stay calm. And we forget. Why do we forget? Because we haven't created enough emotional attachment to the new identity of the person who remains calm in that situation. So that's something we can practice, and that's something is part of the toolkit. Exactly. And yeah, the ideas of I should have done that, could have done that is kind of a regression. But as a story, that's the second arrow we keep saying. So yeah, so that's another aspect of being human mindfully. Now the third aspect is when the mind won't stop chatting. People often say this: I can't meditate, my mind won't shut up. That's like saying I can't go to the gym, my muscles keep moving. So the mind thinks that it's mind thinks that's its nature. You can't stop it anymore. Then you can stop your heart beating. But you can stop taking it so seriously. Thoughts are like clouds drifting through the sky of awareness. They're dramatic, beautiful, fleeting. And they all pass. This too shall pass. But we just chase one, then another, and we end up getting lost in the weather. So there's a story from ancient India. A monk was asked, what is meditation? He said, it's returning. That's all. You notice your mind wandered and you come back gently, kindly, endlessly. So if your mind is loud tonight, that's okay. Just practice returning to the breath, to the body, to the fact that you are already And this is interesting because when we talk about meditation, yeah, with an ADHD brain, which is very important, also we have to be aware of these ideas which were formed when there was less knowledge about the human mind and brain and the conditions we have and individual perspectives. This is very important because ADHD is a one aspect. There's many other aspects, yeah, and there's always this idea that people with ADHD cannot meditate, and appreciate that, Tracy. You say that you can, and that's amazing, and that's the reality. I think it may not be the same way as somebody who's a neurotypical person meditates, but you can still meditate, and that's the idea. Imagination can be your friend or foe. The choice is always yours. The pause is neutral. Beautiful. And that's it. Embracing the uniqueness of being you, and also not taking the chatter too seriously. This is a practice. We have to practice that. People think, oh, I will not take this seriously. But then we get caught up in these loops for hours and hours. And then we realize, oh, where's the mind gone? And then we can just simply say, that was the monkey mind jumping from branch to branch, or that was the clouds in the sky. It doesn't really matter. And we can return back enough. So, thank you for sharing the space and sharing your thoughts on these practices. Yeah, so guided meditation, whether speaking or music, really helps in these situations. And this is the idea. It's not like one size fits all, and it's not like one teacher fits all. This is also important. And there is not just one universal principle. If there was, I think the number 42 is the universal principle. But apart from that, rest everything is okay. Rest everything is just a it's just a funny story which we create. Me looking, okay, think about the scene, okay, in your imagination. Me looking at some sort of a box which has a hole in it, which has some sort of glass feature. Yeah, I'm looking at some sort of a big, wide, rectangular object which has some stuff on it. I'm looking at a lot of moving circular faces who I think are people. I'm hoping you guys are people, real life people at the other end. But this is the funniness of our society. Now I'm like speaking to everyone, thinking this is normal. So what is normal? What is normal is what you make normal to be. So, with that thought, see the funny side of nature, see the less serious side of progress, and also embrace yourself, your identity, and enjoy the rest of the day. So, this has been another daily practice with Nikhil. I hope you took away some things, shared some things, and if you like, please do come back. Please share this, and I will see you again next time. Thank you very much for your kind attention.